Mwasibire muta, mwasibye mutya, amahoro, agandi, Bible, habari gani, muraho, sangonini, kopango, odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to SheCentre, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resty and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _SheCentre_podcast and follow us on Facebook at the SheCentre podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I sure did. It was my birthday yesterday. I'm actually recording this on my birthday. That is on Sunday, the 25th of February. And I had a lovely, lovely day. I've been receiving a lot of lovely messages. And yeah, I'm very grateful to God for yet another year. So happy Monday to you. Will you be listening to this on Monday, Tuesday, or whenever it is? Thank you so much for listening and for always supporting me. The people who are always listening in and commenting and sharing, and yeah. So I decided to do something new today. If you follow me on social media, you will already know this. Today, instead of having the usual female guests coming on and sharing their stories and inspiring us, I reflected a couple of weeks ago and I was thinking of who to bring onto the podcast. And something hit me. I figured that since I'm really passionate about my work and the SheCentre project, maybe I should let you in on the story that really inspired me to start SheCentre. It's not the only inspiration, but it's one of the things that inspired me to start this podcast. So in the year 2015, oh my God, time has gone so fast. In 2015, I was fresh out of the university and I got a job working for a USAID funded project in Uganda. And we went through training to do early grade reading assessments. I was thrilled. To be honest, it was upcountry, so I literally just joined because I wanted to get paid. I wanted money, My vision has always been to work in the UN, USAID, for most of the people who study political science. That's the big dream, However, I ended up working for a USAID funded project. I was happy. And the money was good for someone who was just fresh out of the university. So what I didn't know was this was going to be the beginning of true change in my life. I have shared before that I spent a lot of time in the village during my holidays after school because I went to boarding school, visiting my grandma and all my experiences there. I had seen some hardships and adversity from family members and some people who lived around us. I was blessed that my grandma allowed us to experience this through other people's lives, and I had so many friends in the village and I saw how their lives were, but I never saw what I saw in 2015. So 2015 was a year where my life perspective really changed. I got to go really, really deep in villages and talk to people, talk to children, young children ages about, I think, 5 to 10 years old. And we were interviewing them about early grade reading and assessing their reading skills and learning skills. And we had a lot of challenges. We were fresh, we had to stay sometimes in some unspeakable hotels that I didn't think I would ever sleep in, but the experience was really good when I actually let down my guard and stopped thinking about it as a city girl. So I hope I don't make this story really long. Anyways, I ended up working in 2016 on a project of school-related gender-based violence, and there I met two young girls. One of them I spoke to personally, and the other one I didn't. She was interviewed by another colleague of mine, and I'm just briefly going to tell you about these two girls, and then my guest, my first male guest today, Rica, my very good friend Rica. That's why we start off with this conversation laughing our lungs out. I didn't let you in onto the story that we were sharing that made us laugh, but you can always guess. Anyways, these two young girls, one of them was a school dropout, and her story was she had finished her P7, that is primary 7, and her dad had abandoned her. Literally, she was living with her auntie. She was a key informant, and when I spoke to her, she was very free to speak to me, and she let me know that her dad is an alcoholic. He did have the money to pay for her to go to secondary school. She had dreams to pursue further studies and go to the university, but the father refused to pay school fees for her. So because of that, he decided that he was going to just drink, and then she ended up with her auntie. So because of that, she was staying with her auntie, who introduced her to me to interview her as a key informant who had dropped out and was living without secondary school education and not doing anything at that moment. And our conversation was really good. She opened my mind to seeing and not being able to judge other people and why they're not educated, because her father refused to educate her. She ended up telling me that she was willing to sleep around if possible, if it meant that the person who liked her was willing to give her some necessities, because she couldn't afford the basic necessities. And I was really heartbroken, because there is free education in some schools where you just don't really have to pay a lot of money, but she couldn't even afford the bare minimum to go to school. And the other girl was another girl who was in primary 5, I believe. My colleague talked to her, but we shared the experience together. And she was being raped by her dad. And the teacher, we were talking to kids under her class, and the teacher told us that we should talk to her because she fit the group that we were trying to look for, because our topic was school-related gender-based violence. And the teacher told, when we did a random selection of her class, even if we weren't supposed to go there, we didn't want to pinpoint her. We made it seem like it was random. And so one of my colleagues talked to her, and she was able to open up. It turns out her father was raping her. She was probably about 10 to 12 years old, around there. He had been raping her. Their mom died. They didn't have any other relatives where they could run to. And she had 2 younger siblings who she knew if she was to run away, because she was a little bit older, then the father would definitely start raping her siblings, because he had started raping her earlier than the time when we met her. And it turns out that she shared with the teachers, and they had nothing to do. Okay, they did do something. They went on and told the local council leader, and they tried to talk to her dad to stop doing it, but he couldn't stop doing it. And they couldn't arrest him, because arresting him meant that someone had to take these 3 kids, because he was the one providing for them. So they literally had nothing to do, and I was so frustrated. Oh my God, I was really mad. I was so mad that I was speaking to our coordinator, our director in the field at that moment, and he was like, yes, we're going to collect this data and we will submit it to the authorities, to the district, and they can know of what's happening. I just couldn't understand it. I was like, how? So years go on, and this story has been stuck in my head. I felt so helpless, really helpless. I still feel helpless in some way. So I figured that I could bring you this story to you today and let you know that this, like when I further thought about this in 2020, when the idea of SheCentre came about, I started from thinking about myself. what I've gone through as a person. I've not gone through something that critical, but I've gone through some stuff, and that made me really feel like I was alone. And it turns out that because I was thinking about that, I realized so many of us women and girls out there, we're going through a lot of stuff, and in many cases we do feel like we're alone. Sometimes the people in our lives, our relatives, our friends, they may not be able to help us because their hands are tied, or the government is not able to provide the resources that we need in the society and the services that we require, and we end up feeling really helpless. So that's where I started from. I started from me, and then I remembered these two girls whose lives have like greatly impacted my life. Emotionally, I left that day when I was frustrated, and it turns out that I figured I could come up with a solution. The solution could be to start a female platform where I could bring different women who would share their stories on a podcast and let other people know what they've been through, so that if you're out there listening, maybe the person that I bring onto the podcast shares what they did. You might be going through it. Like some people have been sending me messages and saying, oh, this thing that you shared, I've been going through this and this and that. And it gives you perspective, or it helps you to go through what you're going through, or lets you know you're not alone, you know? And we all don't want to feel alone. No one wants to be feeling like they're the only ones who are going through something. So I figured I could start a platform where women could come and find most of the things that they need. You know, information is really important when you're going through adversity. And yeah, I'm still working on the other part of the SheCentre platform, but at least I figured I don't have to have everything that I need, because I didn't want to feel like my limitations should stop me from doing the things that I wanted to do, that God had placed on my heart to do. So I just started with what I could. I bought some microphones. They weren't really cheap, but I saved up. I bought one microphone. I sent out some messages to some people in my family and friends, and I let them know my project that I was starting. And I said if they were willing to support me, I was happy, because I had some stuff that I needed to buy. I didn't get all the money that I wanted to, but some people gave me support, and I managed to buy some of the things that I needed. I got 2 microphones, one for the people that I interview and the other one for me, and I got some software. And yeah, guess what? It turns out that I was able to start a podcast with what I had. I started with what I had. And yeah, so today I decided to bring a friend of mine, one person that I worked with in the field. He was actually my supervisor when we were working together, and he turned out to be the manager later on in another project. But the reason why I called him is because I've been speaking to him for a while, and I can see that he's still doing work in this field. He's working for a female organization called FIDA. His name is Rica Arch Byaruhanga. He works for a female organization, and they're doing this work. So I always see him making posts about female issues and addressing issues that have to do with children. And I usually text him and say, remember when we went through this and this? And he's like, yeah, man, I do remember. And so because of that, I figured the best person that could help me analyze or help me reflect on this experience that I shared with him could be him. And yeah, he's my first male guest, and I really hope that you don't see me different at the end of this conversation, because at some point I lose it. I'm complaining a lot about so many things, and I hope that you get to enjoy it. And yeah, I hope that it inspires you. And for anyone out there who is going through anything, I really hope that the information that Rica gives opens your eyes to see that there is hope out there. Anyways, let me not spend so much time talking about this. Enjoy. How are you, Rica? How are you?
How is Germany?
Good, good, yeah. I've been seeing you flying all over the world. First, tell us, what are you doing with all this, You're there conquering territories in Europe, in what?
Not yet conquering, but I'm living an experience. Maybe by starters, my name is Rica Arch Byaruhanga. I work with FIDA Uganda in the capacity of monitoring and evaluation manager.
Yeah.
Moving the world, I'm trying to, not just moving, I'm trying to learn, to explore new cultures, things I can bring back home. And here we are with Resty, who we shared an experience when we were still even very young. Now she's running a beautiful podcast of She Podcast, which I follow most of the time. When we invite SheCentre, and where you invite in the different female champions who bring up stories of change, impact. And it's good to hear if someone takes time to sit down and comprehend what they really share with us.
And just so I can let you know, I know I told you before, you're my first male guest.
Okay.
My husband will probably be jealous because I promised him he would be my first male guest, but well, Mark will be fine. But I have been like recording stories, like you just said. I'm recording stories of women to share their experiences. Because I feel like in every person's story, like when you listen to a story of someone, be it male or female, there's a way you either see yourself in it or you see someone that you know in it. And it can help you gain perspective. But at the same time, it helps you to learn from what they did that you didn't do. Or if you're going through the situation at that moment, it helps you to understand how can I avoid this from happening. And I've had many people who have reached out to me who have said, man, for instance, my mom's story. So many single moms are telling me, man, I felt like I was going through it. One girl recently told me, I felt that experience. And then I'm listening. I have teenagers telling me, or youth people telling me, oh, I listened to that girl who said she tried killing herself because of the academics and stuff. And I feel it. So I really see the impact, and I'm happy because that was my goal. And the reason why you are my first guest is not because I wanted Mark to get jealous. It's because me and you shared an experience. We shared an experience when you were at the university. I was just fresh out of the university. And I figured there is so many girls out there who I cannot reach. Like I can't get them to come onto this podcast, even if I wanted to. And hopefully in the future, I'll be able to go in the village and sit down and talk to people. Okay, that's my goal. That's my goal when I'm in Uganda at some point, to sit down with these people, like these voices that they don't have phones or TikTok or whatever to share their stories. And so I was questioning myself. I said, okay, who should be my next guest? And something came to me and I said, you do have 2 guests to represent, and these 2 guests are people who inspired this podcast. There are people who inspired me to get to actually be as passionate as I am. I'm very grateful to God that we had the experience to straight out of university to jump into the experience that we shared, because it really gave me perspective. You remember how I started out in our first field work, like we were so bleak. we didn't know. We are there moving in the village. We're like, wait, I can't sleep in this car hotel. It's like this, like we just had this idea of, I've finished my bachelor's, I should be working in the UN, USAID, like we just thought that that's what it means. And then when they gave us the job to work for USAID, it turns out it wasn't in the big offices. No, we were going deep in the villages, pushing cars. Remember the time when the car was like stuck and we had to get out in Kivito. We had to get out and the car was like, that experience in that moment, I look forward to. I can't wait to go back home. But as soon as I was done with the field work, I realized every time I was here in Germany, every time I opened my mouth to share my experience, there's one lady who once told me, look at the hair on my arms. Like her hair was lifting up, like she was, I don't know how to explain it.
Getting goosebumps.
She was moved. Exactly. Thank you so much for the English. She got goosebumps from the story I was sharing, because they asked me, what do you want to do with your life? And I told them I'm doing my master's program, because I want to go back and help people. This is the experience I have. I worked in the village. I told them some of the stories, and the woman literally looked at me and she wanted to cry. She was like, I cannot believe that has happened. So
Wow.
I said to myself, I have stories of people who can tell, but there are these people whose stories have impacted me, and I want to tell their stories on their behalf. So let's talk about, let's say, I don't know how to name them. We have Esther. Let's say Esther is the little girl, and the dropout girl is Mary. Let's call her Mary. And by the time, of course, you're listening, the people are listening to this, I've already told the story in the introduction of Esther and Mary. So, based on our experience, we got into the field. We were doing early grade reading at first. We interviewed children. We saw societies where there was barely girls in class. Remember that school we went to and there were no girls, and they told us that, oh yeah, the girls are digging, it's a rainy season right now, so the class was practically full of just boys, and the teacher was telling us, yeah, during the rainy season the girls stay home to take care of the children while their parents go to farm. So I've said so much. Maybe just share your experience, because this is what we're going to talk about. Just share your experience of what you remember, and we can maybe reflect on it and see how the conversation goes.
Yeah. Maybe to reflect back on those years, the kind of work we did when we were just from school, from university, has really shaped us in terms of even the kind of work we are doing now. Because you can imagine even the values you hold now, the empathy you felt for those children, listening to their stories. If you are not moved, then you could be having a problem. Because I remember when we used to go to the communities, at times you could do interviews for children in school and children outside school. And you remember we used to go out in schools and start looking for these children. Where are they? You remember we used to walk the whole day like the way you were sharing, pushing these cars. And, you gave a very good preamble of how we joined this program, coming from a bleak, background, that we are going to
we
sleep
didn't know
in
what was happening out
exactly
there.
sleeping in 5-star hotels. But once we reached there, the feel on the ground even impacted on us, Resty. And
yes
I'm so
it
proud.
really
I'm
humbled
so
me.
proud of you
It really
that
humbled me.
the work you're doing really is reflected on what you went through when you were just from university. To go there, I think those girls, not only those girls, there are many girls out there in the communities who have experienced this, who have been molested by the so-called men in the communities, the so-called fathers. And it's not something we should be bragging about or smiling, because it takes us back to what life was when you could hear these learners, where there are empowerment programs in those communities. If they reached a point of seeing this Resty come forward just once in their community, and they break through, they open up to you. It's something which was so unique, and I think everyone who goes to the communities and someone gets to feel the comfort that, what, I think I can open up to Resty. How many of them can open up to a Resty who goes out there in the community? So and it was impactful to hear that these stories were coming out from people who thought that they were up there, who could Resty, believe me, if we didn't get a chance to go to those communities and someone is telling this, no one can believe.
You didn't believe it.
Yeah, so the reason why we are here telling these stories, it's the uniqueness of those stories. And I think we need to do a lot. We still have baby steps. We are moving. We need to stop crawling, go to those communities and start to listen to these stories. Not only listening, and start to act immediately.
Do something, yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
So I want to thank you, Resty. If we ever, I don't know if we can even ever get a chance to meet Esther and the girls really who went through that. But if they are there, we need to do that referral web, that if this happens to you, where can I report? Where can I easily reach out to something like that? Once we listen to these stories, let's not only listen to them, let's act. Let's put the stakeholders in those respective communities to account to these learners. The girl child, they see them as, when you used to go to the community that they are digging, how? Yet the boy child is the one in school. We should have that element of equality, that both of them have to be in school. Okay, you try it out. Let the boys be out of school, then let the girls be in school, if that's the feeling. So we need to put the stakeholders to account for these actions they are doing. these men who molest the learners in schools, and you find them the next morning walking on the streets of Mparo, Chakapea, as if nothing happened. I think it's high time everyone takes action. It could be a parent, it could be a district stakeholder, or anyone within the community. Let's do community parenting, like what really happened. When we were still young. Resty, you do a crime, you find when they've already reported you at home, and things are going to be not nice, you know? So I think that's the way to go. Over to you, Resty.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you, remember that time when we went to this school? I think it was in Hoima. We went to this school, and I was in your team, I remember. I think I was interviewing this girl who was in primary 3. And like, how we used to show them pictures, has this ever happened to you, to like kind of bring them out, open up about sexual harassment? And I was asking her, like, has anyone ever touched you here or done this? Has anyone ever said this? And the girl was like, my stepdad does that to my baby sister. And the baby sister was in a nursery class. Do you remember that part? We called that, we got the counselor to speak to her, and then the counselor told, like, we wrote a letter, the headmaster wrote a letter, and we sent it home so that the mom could come the next day on our second day, and the counselor would talk to her and make her aware of what was happening. And the next day when the mom came, she came really dressed, because they had told her, an organization was, coming. She was probably thinking they were going to sponsor her daughter or her daughters or something. And when she came to the school, the counselor sat her down and talked to her and told her what was happening. Of course, sexual harassment means a lot of things to so many people. And in our society in Africa, there are some things that we kind of like put down until you actually inform yourself. I'm very happy that we go through training before we go into the field. So we were trained about early grade reading, the importance of it, how, and we were trained and certified on school-related gender-based violence. So this woman, she said, I don't know if you remember, but she said that girl is lying. And then she goes like, you guys don't know. We are competing with our children. So she was practically saying that her daughter, who is in P3, you know how girls usually are older than their age in the village, so she was probably around already 12 or something years old, and because those kids usually mature faster based on the society they're living in, the woman was trying to say that her daughter likes her man. That's why she's lying on, like, telling lies that the man is harassing her young sister. And I'm like, thinking about it, it's even shocking. Because in my opinion, whether you're lying or not, as a mom, if it's my first time to hear it, I should first really be like, are you sure? Let me get down to the root of this, because this is my child. So it turns out this man was their stepdad, and she came to him when she already had 2 children. So I think the men are very few in the villages, I don't know. But this woman was willing to say the daughter is lying, sacrifice her child, and whether she's lying or not, and like find the root cause of it. But she was willing to tell us that, to push it out on the side because of the relationship. Like, she was willing to keep the man and choose to say that the daughter, and to be honest, I was in shock when this happened. But it turns out, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and it turns out that this is happening in the Western world a lot. When you listen to stories in America or even in Europe here, when a child is being molested by their stepdad or their father, and they come out, first of all, it takes a lot of energy for you to come out and say, this person has done this to me. I recently had a guest who is a psychiatrist, and she said, you're already in that fear. She said she was sexually harassed when she was young by a family member. And she said that her fear was, she didn't say anyone, is because she didn't think anyone would believe her. So she blamed herself. So by the time this child comes out and tells you, that means it has taken a lot for them to trust you. But then if literally make them feel like, no, that's not true, then that means you have disqualified their emotions, and throughout their whole life, this is how they're going to think. So I'm thinking, an old man harassing a child in nursery school, that's 4 to 5 years old. He didn't rape her, but he was touching her in the wrong way. And her sister is telling her mom, this is what happened. Only after an external, like a secondary source, came and talked to the girl and educated her on what sexual harassment is.
Yeah.
So we come to her, we tell her, has anyone done this to you? And she's afraid. I remember I interviewed her, she was afraid to talk. And then eventually she said, yes, my father has touched my sister, does these things to my sister. So what do you have to say about this? Because I know you're still in the field and this is still happening. I know with your work, right now you're traveling in different places, like you said, you're learning. I'm sure you're experiencing this in many more societies than where we were when we were starting out. What do you have to say about this specific issue?
I think, Resty, we lack a component of parental involvement in terms of how our children are brought up. Let me give an example. By the time a parent comes up and starts defending the man not believing what the story of the child is, you see the real gap we are having, that a child will easily open up to a one Resty who's an external, but fail to open up to an internal who's the primary, and yet it's the mom. So you can see already the gap, that how can I open up to my mom? Yeah, how can I open up to my mom when she will not believe me? But now a Resty who comes from Kampala, she has gone to Hoima district, around 300 kilometers away from the capital, and you build rapport with this child within a few seconds. And she's like, you know what, Resty? This happens. I don't know how to go about it, and I don't know what action will happen, really. And we lack a component of protecting victims sometimes. Because if this learner has really opened up to Resty, she's not sure that if she gets back home, when the mother cannot believe, she will not be beaten. Or she will not be excluded to having some privileges in the home. Because she said out what is her right. That, you know, this didn't happen to me, but I saw it happen to my sister. So how can you help me? You know, these things. And such cases, Resty, happen. But they find ways of, crucifying them on the cross even before us knowing that, this is happening in those communities. How better can we help them? And when you say that this learner opened up to you when we were in the field, it was so much of I can call it anonymous reporting system for you, because she didn't know who you are. But she believed that if I report maybe to Resty can do up something. And I remember you addressing this to our manager, Mr. Peter Muyingo, by that time. That, you know what, this is really happening. What can we do?
I was so furious because Peter was like, we've done our best. I'm like, no, that's not it. We can't stop here. Actually, I need to get Peter on the podcast.
Yeah, he'll be another person who will give you an experience of, I remember them forwarding this case to the probation officer of the district. What can we do?
Yeah, the one of the young girl who was being raped by her father. Yes, I remember. Exactly. I was so mad that day. My day was so messed up, man. I wanted to fight Peter, like as if he was the source of the problem. I was like, you can't tell me that this is it. So we've collected data, we've given in. What are we gonna do? This girl has gone back home to the person who is raping her. What are we doing? Resty, we've done our best. No, that can't be the best.
Yeah. But you see, Resty, from where I come from, that look at the impact it has created for us. This is over 10 years now.
Yeah, true.
And we still feel the effects. I remember sometimes the team members could even break down, even when we went through the counseling sessions. But someone comes up and tells you, I was, this and this happened to me by my parent. Oh, did you tell anyone? No. Why no trust, Why there's no reporting mechanism there? Why there's no referral mechanism there? So really, it affects. But me, I feel the gap is so much on the primary key that it should be the parent to first listen to this child even before Resty gets to know. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. That's very true. Rica, my mind up to now has, you know how I was thinking about it. You meet a stranger, right? You tell them your story.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you're thinking, I'm just pouring my heart out. What do they care? This person is calm, they're in a car, they're dressed, they're from Kampala, they're gone, This is what this girl is thinking out there. Like, she told us her story, we interviewed her, we needed some data, and we left. Her situation never changed. But what she doesn't know is she impacted us. I do not think there's any person who left the field and not be impacted by this girl's story. I didn't interview her. I wasn't the one that interviewed her. My colleague interviewed her. The counselor talked to her, but we shared about it as a group because we had to make the report. And I remember you were the one who had to make the final report to give to Peter. But because Peter was with us in the field that day, I took him on the side and I said, Peter, this can't be this can't be it. And I remember I reached out to you recently and I was asking you about the headmistress because I wanted to call her. Remember? I think a year ago, 2 years ago, I wanted to call this lady and ask her what happened, because we gave this data to the local council, the resident district commissioner, whatever, or to the government. And the USAID was like, okay, this is what we found out. Here you go. This was an extreme case. And I wanted to reach out to the headmistress because I remember she's actually a relative of mine. Like, she's a family friend, but I didn't know her. I just found out about her. And when I reached out to you, you told me, oh, she passed on.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yes.
I don't remember what her name was, yeah. But she is the one that, like, we were doing interviews for kids younger than this girl, but she's the one who came up to us and said, there's this girl, she's a key informant. You people need to talk to her because we as the school, as a society, we have failed to help her. How do you say that? Like I know the teacher is helpless, but I left that field work helpless. Even up to now, I still feel helpless. And I was like, when I was thinking about the SheCentre, I was like, this was the source. That girl and the other girl who was out of school were the source of my inspiration. I said, this girl is seated out there thinking, if she ever sees another international person coming to record her, she would just be like, what did they do last time? You get it? You didn't help me the last time. Why do you need me to talk to you again right now? So imagine this is a citizen right now who is probably, let's say, 21 years old right now. What is her life like right now? If you think about it. She grew up being raped by her father. And she stayed to protect her siblings. She came out, told the teachers, they believed her, but they couldn't do anything about it. The teachers told the local council. The local council went to the parent, talked to him, nothing changed. Why? Because there is no system where children who are being harassed can be taken into and protected from their abusers. Yeah? So, in the ideal world, there should be a system or an organization where they take this girl away and protect her in a safe place.
Yeah.
It took so much for her to share what she was going through.
True.
Yeah? You can, even my anger is coming back right now as I'm sharing this. It took so much for her to share. But when she shared, no one helped her. All we did was listen. And extend the information. Okay, the teacher gave it to the head teacher. The head teacher gave it to the LC. The LC gave it to the resident district commissioner. The resident district commissioner forwarded it to Ministry of whatever, Health, whatever. Then RTI gave it to Ministry of Health. That's where it stopped. It's data. But this individual was not helped. Maybe they went back and addressed the issue in some way or another. I do not think there's any place where they take girls who are being raped. Anywhere I've heard of. It's non-organizations that are doing this, like churches and stuff like this. But I don't know what this girl is thinking right now as a 21-year-old. She has no trust, not only in her father, in her teachers. Remember, the teacher said it was affecting her academics at school. She was sleeping in class and not aware. And the teacher didn't want her classmates to know. So that means her classmates don't know it. Maybe she has shared with a few. They might bully her for failing. So you've practically impacted this whole girl's future life because the government has not put in place systems that can help this child. And there's millions of them like that. So I don't know, maybe you can help me understand, Rica. I've been away for a while. Help me understand with the work that you're doing right now. What is a girl like this to do?
Yeah, and
because there might be someone going through this right now and they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, and I would like to appreciate you, Resty, when you bring up a component of where after it has happened, we lack a component of safe spaces for these victims. Like the way I said that we lack a component of victim-centered approach. That this has happened to Rica. Let's first ensure that Rica is safe, or we take through Rica through this process. Then other actions as they're happening with the perpetrator. Currently, there are organizations which are coming up. Good enough you've given us this platform to talk about any referral webs. There's an organization called Uganet. It has shelters which happen around, but it's not so extensive. I think just because of funding, they operate in specific districts. But it should be something which is nationwide, because these things are happening everywhere. Right? But if the safe space is in Kampala, yet something is happening in Hoima, then what happens within the period of, moving that person to that safe space? Yeah. It should be something that if it happened in Hoima, we have a safe space in Hoima, and it's the government's responsibility to establish up that safe space. That this has happened, how do we ensure that our victim is very, very well managed? One, we take them through counseling, because imagine, we were there, I think each school was two days, right? So imagine we met this learner on the last day, and after listening, the counselor followed up. What next? Now she's 21, she could be having maybe 9 children or 10, I don't know what.
From her father.
From whatever,
because he was the one raping her.
Exactly. So I don't know what action is happening right now on the ground for the child who we faced 10 years ago. But now the thing of acting, it should be that we should be having these safe spaces and our advocacy efforts shouldn't stop resting. If we get any platform of where we can share these stories, let the people hear them. Because we are not sharing them for any motive or any intention. We are sharing them to create a safe space for our communities. Because you never know, I might be the next guy in Mparo and my child is going through the same when I'm there. So where am I supposed to report? Are we together? We lack a component of, people are well informed and empowered that, Resty the way you are and the way people used to see you, they never took you for granted that if you see something, Resty, the next thing you'll say it out. That's the empowerment a girl child should be having. Reaching a point of jumping all levels and reaching to Peter and you say, Peter, this is happening. What action are we taking for this child? We've referred this case to the RDC, they are not acting. You as the manager, what are we supposed to do? This is the accountability bit we should be putting on the table, that if this happens, what next? And this girl should be able to speak up. It might not necessarily them meeting a resty who goes there once in a lifetime. Where are they supposed to be going? Where is our referral web that this has happened? Exactly. They'll go to the LC chairperson. This has happened.
Yes.
Can you imagine even the teacher knew? But she could, hold back. This is affecting the child's performance. And since we were young.
But what can she do?
Exactly. And even us who are like, my God, what next?
I know, right? Like, how can I help her? I can't. Even if you gave her money, what is it going to do to her?
And at one point, Resty, these things shattered our lives, even us, internally. Because I remember there are days we could leave the field when we've not even eaten. But these are stories which are impacting our lives. Taking sodas and biscuits, that's the thing we could do,
Please don't remind me.
Because these things were entering our lives. It was not only affecting the Esther we were interviewing.
Actually, it was. I remember when we were going, they were telling us, because to be honest, I was really impacted by this story. It's really, really absurd how everything is, because you might hear this story as a person who, let's say, is in Kampala or Europe. And because recently a friend of mine shared with me a story. In 2020, her friend was raped. Thieves came in, robbers came in, they robbed her, and then they raped her. She was alone in the house. And she told her friends, and remember 2020 was COVID lockdown, so there were no cars allowed. So she called her friends, I think, and managed to let them know, and they came to pick her up. And then they took her to the police station. And the police station said, you need to go to the hospital. And there wasn't any kind of, that reception where someone receives you with empathy. Because first of all, they almost chased them off the street, but they finally explained. So imagine the embarrassment to go from one place to another looking for help from the people who should help you, the first responders. First of all, apparently they called the police and no one came, so they had to drive there. She needed help, but before you can go to the hospital to treat you, you need to go to make a case. Yeah, because they're supposed to get some evidence or whatever. Anyways, long story short, this girl moved from there. They had to take her to the hospital. The hospital is like, you need to go to the police. Like, so in many cases, you might be someone in Kampala and you're listening to this and you're thinking, if something like something, probably something like that will never happen to me, or if it happened to me, I will know what to do. But the thing is, you don't, because your head is traumatized with the trauma that you've just experienced, and yet the government has not put. Okay, let's say the places are there, because these days I see there's a lot of organizations. I saw there's an organization. I think you guys are having a talk with one girl. It's called Frauen UG.
Frauen Initiative.
Your company is going to have yeah, exactly. I was doing research on the organizations that exist in Uganda, and I saw that she's among. They have an organization. I think she's Sarafina or something like that. I hope to have her. I sent an email sometime, and we will probably. I'll reach out to her again because I wanted to talk to her also.
Okay.
This girl, their organization, they have kits for when you have been raped. But how many people know? If the government is not able to do something, how about it gives the spotlight to those who are doing their work? Like, for instance, right now, the government should be like, oh, these young girls in their 20s probably are doing the work we should be doing. How about the Ministry of Health makes it clear to them, or let's even support them financially so everyone knows what they should do. Instead of letting these girls struggle to reach a mass group of people who they can't help. So it turns out this organization was already in place at that time when this girl was arrested in 2020. But she didn't know what to do. Like, Rica, I am raped right now, God forbid. And I don't know who to call apart from my friends. But my friends can only do so much to help me. That is, cancel me, take me to the hospital.
Calm down.
But this person who has raped me,
telling you stories of calm down.
Them? Calm down. Let's go to the hospital. If you have money, maybe you'll get treated. The hospital will not treat you if it's a case of rape. And the police wants probably some money. So in my head, I'm thinking, this thing happened to this girl in the village. And when you hear such a story, you think, like, sorry for that person. But then it happens to you in Kampala and you realize, wait a minute, it's not just the people in the village who do not have help. Even I don't have help. This is a grown woman in her 30s who was raped, and she didn't have any, apart from her friends. Yes, she had friends, but she was also, and her friends was helpless as the society was in Hoima to help this girl. So how are you guys at your company, FIDA? How are you doing this? Like, how are you trying to make sure that people know that there are people who are doing this work and we want to help you? Because I know these days social media is the way to reach people, but just maybe share with us some of the work that you guys are doing and how you're able to reach these people and let them know that we are here, we can help you, and we can put you in contact with people who are able to help you.
Okay, I'll start with the component of communication, because the moment, even when you don't know, you could be knowing where to report, but the communication then could be hard. I'm giving a scenario that you're raped maybe at 3 in the night and you don't have airtime on your phone to call. Where do I start from? You might be knowing the one Resty to call, but you don't have airtime. We've established a toll-free line, the call center, whereby you can call in 24/7, at least as FIDA Uganda, and there are other organizations we work with, that if they call you 24 hours, at least you have to respond. We might not respond there immediately, but we shall try our level best at the earliest time possible to reach out to you.
To get back to you.
So these toll-free service lines are free. This number, even if you have or you don't have, you can call on it. Now on our website, let me give an example. You're somewhere and you get an issue. You can easily access our website and you write a message to us. You can interact with the lawyer, even if it's at 2 a.m. in the night, someone will respond. A message pops up that, you know what, I've been raped and somewhere here and here. We have our referral people we are working with. We call them community legal volunteers. Others call them paralegals in the law, in the legal terms. So if you send a message, we have someone we can direct you faster. Then they come and at least support you. That is another way
Yeah.
we are working with. Again, we are strengthening our empowerment program. It could happen to you, Resty, but are you empowered enough to speak out, to call us? Are you empowered enough to call a one Rica who's nearby? It can happen, and you're like, how will the world feel about it? Yet it's also happening downstairs on your at your neighbor's door.
Yes,
So
that's
if
true. Yeah.
if you speak, and these are empowerment programs we are doing on our social media platforms. Look at this chance we are getting with you, Resty. If they hear to these podcasts of how people are being champions, being a single mother. Even mine was a single mother. But if they listen, they would be like, "My God, this is the same
I
thing."
feel you.
Yeah, I feel we are sharing the same story.
Someone called me and said she cried through that story. She was like, "Man, I went through exactly what your mom is saying that she went through." So your story is someone else's story.
Exactly.
That's the interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a snowball that at least someone needs to hear. A one Resty, moderate this session, ask those hard questions they would have asked. Is it possible for us to have feedback that, what, this has been happening to me? Resty, where can I get help? And Resty, think to you, this might be a platform for you to think big. Because I've seen people who have a lot of following. Now your following could have increased. Someone inboxes you and is like, Resty, I'm going through this. How can you help me?
Exactly.
How can you help me? So you're one of those pillars. People will think inspired of the operas, how they happened, the influence now you're having. The influence you're having now is way bigger. That your voice now is much louder than other voices, where one would say, if Rica had, he'll keep quiet. But Resty gets to hear, problems, So us knowing, being empowered enough to say that I've got this issue, let me ring Resty. I've got this issue, let me text Resty. I've got this issue, let me call this one. And we need to build trust with our stakeholders. I'll give an example of our police. Our child protection police unit, child family protection unit. Things could be happening, whatever issues they have. Let's build trust in them. Regardless, let's continue reporting these cases to them. Let's continue making alarm to them. Let them produce their annual reports and fail to put these cases in their reports. And we start asking questions. Because this is the only way we have to put these people to account. Because if we don't report to them, they'll say these things are not happening. So let's continue reporting to them and identify key champions who can take up these cases.
Because at least there's proof that you recorded, that it's recorded in their book. I can't imagine how many times you go and write in that book and it's just piled up in the whatever. So at least there's proof that you went there and you told them. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. And Resty, if I can take you back, when we were doing this study in the districts, when the stories you were telling earlier on, we used to look for what we called a case register book. And surprisingly, in that school, there was nothing like that case in that book. So imagine if you're following up and someone wants to see if this case happened to Esther. There's nothing like documentation at all. So I think we need to continue putting these things to paper, advocate using the right channels of the SheCentres, that what, Resty, this, please, how can you help? But I wonder if you could be able to speak, but do you have enough resources, you as Resty, to come out and, put these things to order? You could be needing funds from somewhere. Someone has to facilitate you. So those are things, I think, which are long run, but we have to start acting as soon as possible.
And I like that you asked that question in the end, because when I was starting out SheCentre, I felt really helpless. Like I said, I had this story, not only because I shared in the first episode, it started with me. When you're going through something traumatizing, or when you sit down, 2020 really did something on many of us. So I sat down in 2020 and I'm like, my life has been hard, Bananga. Life has been hard. I've gone through all this. And then as I sat down to write all these things down, I'm like, but Esther, who had it worse than I did? So I should be grateful I'm not like Esther. But also, my friend then shares with me, her friend went through this. So I started to see there's so many people. Another friend called me and said her boyfriend was beating her. Like, you see, there are so many stories of different women. And all of us, no matter how different our problems are, we are all helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah? We are all helpless and we didn't know what to do or who to reach out to. FIDA exists and there's free services, but I didn't know of it. And so many people don't know about it. It's until something happens to you that you start researching that you find. So for me, what I did was I was like, I could start an organization and say I'm going to help people who are doing this. But the problems are so many. How about I start a platform where I am not the one doing the work that everyone is already doing out there, but that brings all these people together.
Yeah.
Because what you said earlier requires collaboration.
Yeah.
And that's why I was happy to see, I follow FIDA. FIDA has a collaboration with this initiative from this girl.
Frown initiative.
So that means, yeah, exactly. So that means her people, the people who know about her, now will know about FIDA.
Exactly.
Because two different organizations with the same goal, a mission in mind, have come together.
Yeah.
But in many cases, I have found that so many people are doing the same thing, and yet they don't want to collaborate. Someone told me, I don't know how true this is, but apparently it's a struggle for funding. So it's like, if I come and tell you I'm helping these people, then even you're doing it, if you collaborate, they will give, if the money which is going to come will come to you, or something. Like, it's so stupid for someone to think like that, because then that means you didn't get into that job, or that is not your purpose. You're just doing it for money, which is absurd. Because for me, I feel like if someone reached out to me right now, and this is not even the first time, after a podcast that I listened to, someone sent me a message. 2 people have sent me a message so far, and they have asked me for the contact of the person I talked to. One of them, it was something to do with fitness. I talked to a fitness influencer, and she was sharing about posture and everything. And someone sent me a message and said, my grandmother needs help. Can you help me ask the person you talk to, Sisi, if she has anyone, because she's in Norway, if she knows anyone in Uganda who can help my grandma. So I helped this person by connecting the 2 of them. And when I asked Sisi, Sisi connected me with someone who this person didn't know existed in their own country. Sisi is in the Norway. I'm all the way in Germany, and I'm the one who is combining these 2 people together.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? So we do not have to be on ground. I do not have to have money. My job is to talk. I'm good at talking. I love talking. I will talk, and through my talking, someone will get to that, and then I will direct that person to FIDA. I'll direct that person to the initiative.
Yeah.
So my goal is, if I feel like I want to make the change, I don't need to make the money. I don't need to have the money. It would be good if someone paid me to do this podcast, because then it would be much bigger. Yeah. It requires you to really be purposeful and intentional when you're doing this work, I believe. And I am glad that we have a space, and I'm hoping that this is the space that it could be to have these conversations. What I did was, when I was starting out this work, I started out, like, initially when I was starting to find the mission for my project, I started out by, yes, I had the issue, and everyone kept telling me, what exactly do you want to do? Because my auntie was like, wait, people are doing this stuff. Everyone is doing this stuff. What do you want to do? And I'm like, what do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. I just want to help these people. And it took me I think since 2020, I've been like trying to write down the mission and I was like, someone is doing this. So I had to go online and research what companies exist that are helping women. I have a whole like folder where every time I find out about a company, I put it in. And I have friends who know what I want to do, so they always call me. Like, my cousin was like, oh, check out UBC. They have this program where this lady brings in like female whatever to talk about their work that they're doing. So I always listen to it as well. And I had to write down, like, I have like a whole folder where I'm putting, they do this is what they do, so that I don't have to repeat the same thing, but so that SheCentre can have reference. And I have reached out so many people, and I always tell them, I would like to collaborate with you in the future. I like what you're doing. I've found out online about your work, and I would like to collaborate with you in the future. But what I like that you said is like, what am I going to do? The question asks, what am I going to do about it? Yeah?
What I'm doing about it is I have created a space. No one pays me. I wish they could pay me money to do this, but I'm doing this out of my own pocket because of the passion that I have. But I do know that through this, I can be able to create the awareness necessary to get me to that place where I can get the influence that I need for people to listen and be like, oh, this SheCentre project has been talking about such and such issues. Because you can't start from fame. You know, you don't start from even I'm sure FIDA started out, your boss must have started out with an idea just like me, and she was like, hey, we're helping, and people were like, until she got to a point where right now everyone is like FIDA. So people give up so quickly, but also at the same time, I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to be a woman to care about female issues. And that's why I could have called so many people from the field who are girls, but I figured it would be best to have a male perspective, because it's easy for me to come here and rant and someone like Jonah, sorry Jonah, he was the first person that came to mind, and someone like Jonah would just be like, that Resty just likes to talk. We are tired of like talk, you get? But no, I wanted a male person like Jonah or Joel to listen and be like, even Rica has given, like, at least let them say, okay, a male perspective is also there. Something needs to be done. You don't need to be a woman to care about female issues. Yes. I don't need to be a man for me to say I want to help a man who is going through something. Yes. All of us can make the change. We cannot sit there and wait for Museveni to do everything for us. Clearly, he's not going to come and help a raped person in Mbarara. Yeah. I don't have to wait for a member of parliament. I don't have to wait for minister this and this to come and recognize me for my work to be done. I will do the work, and I'm sure, very sure, many government people have reached out to your organization trying to be like, oh, let's connect with you guys, because they have seen the work you're doing. But when you're starting out, they were nowhere to be seen, right? So it's I think it's very important from what you've shared. It's important for you to ask yourself, me as me, Zenga's Resty, what can I do about this issue?
Exactly.
And that's where we are right now, Rica. The job that you're doing right now, it might be a job, yes, for sustenance, for you to have salary and all that, but along the way, all these experiences that you've had, they kind of give it purpose. Yeah. Like you reach down, I'm sure you sit down and you're like, okay, I know I want to get paid, I have a good job, but man, this thing has really impacted me. And I'm sure that's why you are willing to come today to talk, because I'm not paying you anything, but you're willing to come and talk to me about it, because we shared an experience, and this experience has impacted our lives. Remember in the first day of EGRA, they told us, these things will impact you. And we were like, as we are just here to make money.
I feel you, Resty, when you
say I was just there to get mudidi. Like, we were just there to get paid per DM and salary and go home rich and start our businesses or whatever. But guess what? Here we are talking about it, and it's not just you. I've talked to Brenda multiple times. There's a time I was talking to Basi when I told her about this organization. Basi was like, Resty, I want to help. How can I help? You get? Like, these are people who, it's been years. We all met in the field, fresh out of the uni, and these stories have connected us, and they have made us who we are right now. So I don't know what else you want to say. I feel like I have ranted all I can. The government might even come for me at this point, but
no, you know what?
Yeah, maybe you can share from your experience what you think about this.
Yeah, you know what, Resty? My takeaway is, we joined USAID to make money. That was the main intention. But the results of what came out is what we are doing now. The values, my values I hold now are based on my first career job I had. Based on the things I went through, looking at everyone to be equal, the Ubuntu value, the empathy you feel to someone when you're talking to them. Sometimes I could see you when you're even bending low, when you're greeting those old people, These are things we may not have done. We would be feeling big, me, I come from here. But look where we are. When someone gets to see a humble Resty, they're like, where did she grow up from? Not knowing the things you went through that humbled you, even without anyone saying, Resty, be humble. But just the experience you've had
those
from
hotels
the hotels
we slept in,
You
can't come from there and not be humble. Those are experiences that should never be talked about online. Like no one should hear about.
Yeah. But I believe Resty, you're not far away from the biggest platform in your life of calling, of you being called to tell these stories to the world,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
world needs to know what is really happening. The world really needs to know what is happening,
yeah,
and you're the right
yeah,
source right now. Because if Resty, you sat on this podcast and it was a mono podcast,
yeah,
I don't know if they call it a mono when you're one, and you start
yeah.
telling stories, no one would believe. But people are
I'm just
substantiating
alone.
that
Yeah.
you, yeah, people are substantiating that you're
That's
bringing
why.
in a male perspective,
Yes, I wanted
and
to tell this story literally.
uh,
Yeah,
and it would,
not just a male
if
perspective to bring someone
exactly,
who is in a different field to come and share exactly to be like, yes, I saw it happen. I'm not. It's not just you dreaming things.
yeah, and if I don't know, I know one day, one time, you'll be called to really give more substance to this, know what this kind of work created to us. Do you know we are still connected? We still feel like brothers and sisters for the
Yeah,
people who worked
yeah,
under that
true,
project,
true.
regardless of our
Yeah,
different
yeah,
backgrounds. And I know we can sit in
yeah,
the same room, face whatever panel it is there, and
yeah,
everyone will share really what they saw um, in the
yeah,
country, which we
and how it
thought that things
impacted
are
them.
normal. We went there when we were thinking, we shall not get any cases. But look, the stories we are telling after 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it's a shared experience, and it was
Yeah.
all brought together by a foreign company, not even by government of Uganda. USAID had to come to Uganda to hire us to do a job, which brought us together. And right now we are collaborating on sharing about an experience that we shared because of this organization that started at an international level. So yeah, Rica, I just want to thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate, and maybe before we close out, you can just re-echo some of the things that you guys are doing. FIDA, try to introduce it because I don't know much. I read about it, but I just would like you to kind of share out what FIDA does exactly, because this would be very important, at least for my listeners who do not know FIDA, to be like, okay, I heard about this FIDA thing at SheCentre.
Yeah. So luckily, thank you very much. This year we are celebrating. This year, 2024, we are celebrating 50 years. Can you imagine? I'm working for an organization which is 50 years, and people know FIDA as a feminist organization. Over years, people know FIDA Uganda as an organization which strangles men, which is not right. Yeah,
That's
people
what
know.
feminists are called, the angry people.
They think that FIDA Uganda is an organization which is feminist and it only works with female. Here I am, I'm working with them. I'll correlate to what SheCentre is. People think that SheCentre is basically for only women. Look, here I am, and
No.
I'm an ally for SheCentre. I'm giving testimonies of really
Yeah.
what is happening on the ground. So me, I think we are open, and let me promise you, we are ready to collaborate with you, Resty. In case you have any cases you want to refer to FIDA Uganda, anywhere you find them, please just hit my inbox or on our website. We shall be able to respond as soon as very possible
Yeah.
to ensure that at least our people on the
Yeah.
ground can access justice. We work with women, youth,
Yeah.
and children, refugees. We are so inclusive in terms of people who are uniquely abled. If you have any case and you want any free legal advice, we shall be able to offer it at a free cost, zero cost, whereby we shall be able to ensure that at your convenience, that's when we support you to access justice. Thank you very much, Resty, for
Yeah.
giving us this platform. We don't take it for granted. And we wish you all the best in terms of advocating for the rights of girls and women out there. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you so much. I know that in the future we'll definitely do more collaborations. Like this is just a collaboration like digitally and stuff, but I do know that when my idea or my vision of SheCentre is in place and is on a website, it will be definitely, because legal advice and legal support is something that women feel they are not given in developing countries, even in here. So yeah, thank you so much once again for making the time, and I appreciate that.
Well, if you listened until the end, I hope you still like me. I hope we're still friends. I am really, really passionate about anything that has to do with equality, gender equality. And I'm really, really always rooting for the underdog. So I always kind of get out of my skin when I'm talking about certain issues. But that's my passion. So I'm not going to apologize for it, but I am glad that you listened. And I am hoping that this conversation with Rica really inspired you. Rica, thank you so much for all the information. Thank you for allowing me to rant. I know you always do. Thank you so much for allowing to have this conversation with me to reflect on the impact that this field work had on us. And I really appreciate the fact that you gave all this information to the listeners and to me as well. I didn't know some of the things that you said. And I'm hoping that any person out there who has listened to this episode will be able to, and needs this help, will be able to reach out when they need you, or share this information with someone that requires it or someone that needs it. And to the rest of you that were able to listen until the end, I do hope that our conversation inspired you. I will continue to bring stories in all ways, whether I am the one telling the stories or I bring people to tell the stories. I am just ready to share stories from other people to inspire you and to show you how the other half of the world lives. Just do me a favor, please share this episode, follow us on social media, and join our community, the SheCentre community, and stay engaged. I really appreciate the people who give me feedback and comment. And also, if you could do me a favor, just look below in the episode description and take part in the survey that is down there. And I would really want to know what you think about the episodes and everything else that's going on here. It will help me to make this whole experience better for you. So until next time, keep shining, keep inspiring, and keep pushing on. I love you. Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is SheCentre, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.